Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Rajiv Jain from Jivaji University, Gwalior. Today I shall discuss with you in this module common apparatus and basic techniques under the paper Fundamentals of Analytical Chemistry. Basic techniques and the common apparatus which we use in the laboratory, and we can say analytical laboratory or in general laboratory, to learn about the apparatus which you shall use in your laboratory and how to handle apparatus, how to orderly work and clean your seat, how to use different types of techniques, we will discuss here. So first thing, when you enter in the laboratory is to wear the apron. After wearing the apron, clean your seat, which seat is provided to you, open your cupboards, take out from that different apparatus which are required. Another important thing, first which you handle will be your analytical balance to correct the or to set the analytical balance, to take different types of glass apparatus such as burette, pipette, beakers, funnel, conical flask, and then clean them. Different methods of cleaning are given, and I shall discuss all these things in this module. Common apparatus used in the laboratory are: number one, balances. The analytical balance is one of the commonest procedures carried out by the analyst in the measurement of mass. For accurate measurement of mass, an analytical balance as shown in figure 1 is employed. The operation is referred to as weighing, and invariably reference is made to the weight of the object or material which is weighed. The analytical balance is one of the most important tools of the analytical chemist, and it is one which in recent years has undergone radical changes. Electronic balances are now available to cover weight ranges of 150 gram to zero point 0.1 ultra microgram balance. Thus, a wide variety of analytical balances are available. Although with modern balances, it is not necessary to make use of a weight box in the weighing process. A set of weights is desirable for checking accuracy of balance. An ordinary set of analytical weights containing contains the 100, 50, 30, 20, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1 grams and weights of milligrams starting from 500 milligram to 10 milligram and then 5 milligram, 3 to 1 milligram in sequence. The weights from 1 gram upwards are constructed from a non-magnetic nickel chromium alloy or from authentic stainless steel. Plated brass is sometimes used but is less satisfactory. The fractional weights are made from the same alloy or from a non-tarnishable metal such as gold or platinum. For handling the weights, a pair of forceps, preferably ivory tipped, are provided and the weights are stored in a box as shown in figure 2 with suitable shaped compartments. Care and use of analytical balances. No matter what type of analytical balance is employed, may be classical balance or electronic balance, due attention must be paid to the manner in which it is to be used. The following remarks apply particularly to electronic balances. Never exceed the stated maximum load of the balance. The balance must be kept clean. Remove dust from the pan and from the floor of the pan compartment with a cam- camel hair brush. Object to be weighed should never be handled with the fingers. Always use tongs or a loop of clean paper. Objects to be weighed should be allowed to attain the temperature of the balance before weighing, and if the object has been heated, sufficient time must be allowed for cooling. The time required to attain the temperature of the balance varies with size of the object, but as a rule, 30 to 40 minutes is sufficient. chemicals, or objects which might injure the balance pan should ever be placed directly on it. Substances must be weighed in suitable containers such as small beakers, weighing bottles, or crucible, or upon watch glasses. Liquids and volatile or hygroscopic solids must be weighed in a tightly closed vessels such as stoppered weighing bottles. Nothing can be left on the pan when weighing has been completed. If any substance is spilled accidentally upon the pan or upon the floor of the balance compartment, it must be removed at once. Exposure of the balance to corrosive atmosphere must be avoided. There may be chances of some error while weighing. The chief sources of error are the following: change in the condition of the containing vessel or of the substance between successive weighings, effect of the buoyancy of the air upon the object and the weight, errors in recording the weight. The first source of error is occasioned by the change in weight of the containing vessel. These errors may be largely eliminated by wiping the vessel gently with a linen cloth and allowing it to stand at least 30 minutes in proximity to the balance before weighing. Next part after balance, commonly used, is the graduated apparatus. The most commonly used pieces of apparatus in volumetric analysis are graduated flasks, burettes, and pipettes as shown in figure 3, 4, and 5. Graduated cylinders and weight pipettes are less widely employed. Graduated apparatus for quantitative analysis is generally made to specification limits, particularly with regard to the accuracy of calibration. Cleaning of glass apparatus. All glass apparatus must be perfectly clean and free from grease. Otherwise, the results will be unreliable. Various methods are available for cleaning glassware. Many commercially available detergents are suitable for this purpose, and some manufacturers market special formulations for cleaning laboratory glassware. Deepol is a relatively mild and inexpensive detergent which may be used for cleaning glassware. A method which is frequently used consists in filling the apparatus with chromic acid cleaning mixture. A graduated flask, known as a volumetric flask or a measuring flask, is a flat bottom, pear shaped vessel with a long, narrow neck. A thick line etched around the neck indicates the volume that it holds at a certain definite temperature, usually 20 degrees centigrade. The flask is then said to be graduated to contain this volume. Flasks with one mark are always taken to contain the volume specified. A flask may also be marked to deliver a specified volume of liquid under certain definite conditions. These are, however, not suitable for exact work and are not widely used. Graduated flasks are available in the capacities starting from 1 ml to 5000 ml. They are employed in making up standard solutions to a given volume. They can also be used for obtaining, with the aid of pipettes, aliquot portions of a solution of the substance to be analyzed. Pipettes. Pipettes are of two kinds. Number one, those which have one mark and deliver a small constant volume of liquid under certain specific conditions, which are known as transfer pipettes as shown in figure 6. Another type of pipettes are those in which the stems are graduated and are employed to deliver various small volumes at discretion, known as graduated or measuring pipettes as shown in figure 7. The transfer pipette consists of a cylindrical bulb joined at both ends to narrow tubing. A calibration mark is etched around the upper tube while the lower tube is drawn out to a fine tip. The graduated or measuring pipette is usually intended for the delivery of predetermined variable volumes of liquid. It does not find wide use in accurate work, for which a burette is generally preferred. Transfer pipettes are constructed with capacities of 1 to 100 ml, and also nowadays pipettes of which can measure volume of 0.01 ml are also available. To use different types of pipettes, a suitable pipette filler is first attached to the upper or suction tube as shown in figure 8. These devices are obtainable in various forms. A simple version consisting of a rubber or plastic bulb fitted with glass valves which can be operated between finger and thumb. These control the entry and expulsion of air from the bulb and thus the flow of liquid into and out of the pipette. Graduated pipettes consist of straight, fairly narrow tubes with no central bulb and also constructed to a standard specification. They are likewise color coded in accordance with the ISO. For dealing with smaller volumes of solutions, micropipettes, as shown in figure 9, often referred to as syringe pipettes, are employed. These can be of a push button type in which the syringe is operated by pressing a button on the top of the pipette. The plunger travels between two fixed stops and so a remarkably constant volume of liquid is delivered. Such pipettes are fitted with disposable plastic tips which are not wetted by aqueous solution, thus helping to ensure constancy of the volume of liquid delivered. The liquid is contained entirely within the plastic tip, and so by replacing the tip, the same pipette can be employed for different solutions. Automatic pipettes are also available. The deferred pipette is an automatic version of a transfer pipette. One side of the two-way trap is connected to a reservoir containing the solution to be dispensed. When the tap is in the appropriate position, solution fills the pipette completely, excess solution draining away through the overflow chamber. The pipette now contains a definite volume of solution which is delivered to the receiver by appropriate manipulation of the tap. These pipettes are available in a range of sizes from 5 to 100 ml and are useful in routine work. Another Another volume measuring device are auto dispensers. Auto dispensers are useful for measuring definite volumes of solutions on a routine basis as shown in figure 10. Solution is poured out of a container by depressing a syringe plunger. The movement of the plunger and hence the volume of the liquid dispensed are controlled by means of a movable clamp. The plunger is spring loaded so that when released, it turns to its original position and is immediately ready for operation again. Tilting pipettes, which are attached to a reagent bottle, are only suitable for delivering approximate volumes of solution. Another very important apparatus which is to be learned is burette. Burette is a uniformly long cylindrical instrument which is open on the one side, and on the other side there is a glass stopper is attached from where by opening we may take the desired volume of the liquid which is filled in the burette. So burette is graduated. Burette is of two types. One type of burette may be of for laboratory purpose, ordinary laboratory purposes, which is whose volume is usually 25 ml or 50 ml, and it is graduated so that we may read the reading on the burette itself, and it should be of very high quality burette because it is a very important apparatus which is being used in different types of volumetric or other types of titration. We add drop by drop from this burette uh, to the conical flask and measure the quantities being added to that. And for that purpose, we should be very careful that there should be no leakage from the burette. There should be no leakage. And we use the burette, we should not place over over the upper end of the burette funnel, which is being placed there for filling the burette. So after filling the burette with the help of conical flask, the whatever solution we want to uh, fill the burette, we should remove the conical flask from the upper end of the burette. And important here, important precautions to be taken, that there should be no leakage from the burette side. Another important apparatus is the graduated measuring cylinder, which is shown here in the figure. Graduated cylinder which has graduated mark, and it comes in the capacity of 10 ml, 20 ml, 30 ml. We may take, if we require rough addition, then we may take 5 ml to 2 ml, 3 ml of the solution or solvent with the help of a standard graduated graduated flask, which we can say. And above all these things, the things which we take here is the water. The purity of water is very important. Water is generally taken into three grades: grade 1 water, grade 2 water, grade 3 water. Grade 3 water is of highest purity. In any analytical laboratory, when we work, it is customary, it is very essential to take a distilled water. For ordinary experiment, for qualitative and quantitative analysis, taking classical methods such as volumetric by taking the different types of indicators, gravimetric, then we may take grade 1 water, which is not of very high quality, but it comes after single distillation. And then grade 2 water, it may be double distilled water, or it may be water of reverse osmosis. By taking that, it is a high quality water which is usually taken for instrumental analysis. And even superior quality grade 3 water, which is usually used for a very sensitive techniques like high performance liquid chromatography, where we take water, we deionize it, we distill it, we pass through its membrane, and then we use it water. It should not contain any anion, cation, and its purity should be of highest standard, which is called as water of grade 3 water. Next apparatus which is used is wash bottle. A wash bottle, as shown in figure 12, is a flat bottomed flask fitted up to deliver a fine stream of distilled water or other liquid for use in the transfer and washing of precipitates. A convenient size is a 500 to 750 ml flask of Pyrex or other resistant glass. A rubber bung is used, and the jet should deliver a fine stream of water. A suitable diameter of the orifice is 1 mm. A polythene wash bottle is available commercially and is inexpensive. It is fitted with a plastic cap carrying a plastic jet and has flexible sides. The bottle can be held in hand. Application of slight pressure by squeezing gives an easily controllable jet of water. I shall now discuss the general apparatus, which includes glassware, ceramics, plasticware. A brief account of general laboratory apparatus relevant to quantitative analysis I shall discuss in this lecture now. The commonest material of construction of such apparatus are glass, porcelain, fused silica, and various plastics. The merits and disadvantages of these will also be considered. Glassware. In order to avoid the introduction of impurities during analysis, apparatus of resistance glass should be employed. For most purposes, a borosilicate glass is to be preferred. Resistance glass is slightly affected by all solutions, but in general, attack by acid solutions is less than by pure water or by alkaline solutions. For this reason, the latter should be acidified whenever possible if they must be kept in glass for any length of time. For special purposes, corning glass may be used. It has great resistance to heat and equally great resistance to thermal shock, and is unusually stable to acids, water, and various solutions. For filling burettes and transferring solids to graduated flasks, a short term wide neck funnel is used. Porcelain apparatus. Porcelain is generally employed for operations in which hot liquids are to remain in contact with the vessel for prolonged periods. It is usually considered to be more resistant to solutions, particularly alkaline solutions, than glass, although this will depend primarily upon the quality of the glaze. Porcelain crucibles are very frequently utilized for igniting precipitates and heating small quantities of solids because of their cheapness and their ability to withstand high temperatures without appreciable change. Fused silica apparatus. Two varieties of silica apparatus are available commercially, the translucent and the transparent grade. The former is much cheaper and can usually be employed instead of the transparent variety. The advantages of silica ware are they are silica ware is great resistance to heat shock because of its very small coefficient of expansion. It is not attacked by acids at a high temperature except by hydrofluoric acid and phosphoric acid, and it is more resistant to pyrosulfate fusion than is porcelain. The chief disadvantages of silica are it is attacked by alkaline solutions and particularly by fused alkalis and carbonates. It is more brittle than ordinary glass and it requires a much longer time for heating and cooling than does say platinum apparatus. Plastic apparatus. Plastic materials are widely used for a variety of items of common laboratory equipment such as aspirators, beakers, bottles, Buchner measuring cylinders, scoops, spatulas, stoppers, tubing, weighing bottles, etc. Such products are often cheaper than their glass counterparts and are frequently less fragile. Although inert towards many chemicals, there are some limitations on the use of plastic apparatus, not the least of which is the generally rather low maximum temperature to which it may be exposed. Attention is drawn to the extremely inert character of Teflon, which is so lacking in reactivity that it is used as the liner in pressure digestion vessels, in which substances are decomposed by heating with hydrofluoric acid or with concentrated nitric acid. Metal apparatus. Crucibles and bases required for special purposes are often fabricated from various metals, amongst which platinum holds pride of place by virtue of its general resistance to chemical attack. Platinum is used mainly for crucibles, dishes, and electrodes. It has a very high melting point, that is 1773 degrees centigrade, but the pure metal is too soft for general use and is therefore always hardened with small quantities of rhodium, iridium, or gold. Silver apparatus. The chief uses of silver crucibles and dishes in the laboratory are in the evaporation of alkaline solutions and for fusion with caustic alkalis. In the latter case, the silver is slightly attacked. Gold vessels are more resistant than silver to fused alkalis. Silver melts at 960 degrees centigrade and care should therefore be taken when it is heated over a bare flame. Nickel ware. Crucibles and dishes of nickel are employed for fusions with alkalis and with sodium peroxide. In the peroxide fusion, a little nickel is introduced, but this is usually not objectionable. Ironware. Iron crucibles may be substituted for those of nickel in sodium peroxide fusions. They are not so durable but are much cheaper. Stainless steelware. Beakers, crucible, dishes, funnel, etc. of stainless steel are available commercially and have obvious uses in the laboratory. They will not rust, are tough, strong, and highly resistant to denting and scratching. Heating apparatus. Various methods of heating are required in the analytical laboratory, ranging from gas burners, electric hot plates, and ovens to muffle furnaces. The ordinary burners, as shown in figure 13, is widely employed for the attainment of moderately high temperatures. The maximum temperature is attained by adjusting the regulator so as to admit rather more air than is required to produce a non-luminous flame. Too much air gives a noisy flame which is unsuitable. Hot plate. The electrically heated hot plate as shown in figure, preferably provided with three controls, low, medium and high, is of great value in analytical laboratory. The heating elements and the internal wiring should be totally enclosed that protects them from fumes or spilled liquid. Next item of common use are electric ovens. The most convenient type is an electrically heated, thermostatically controlled drying oven as shown in figure 15, having a temperature range from room temperature to about 250 to 300 degrees centigrade. The temperature can be controlled within plus minus 1, 1 degree centigrade. They are used principally for drying precipitates or solids at comparatively low controlled temperatures and have virtually superseded the steam ovens. Microwave ovens. They also find applications from drying and heating operations. They are particularly useful for determining the moisture content of materials since the elimination of water takes place very rapidly on exposure to microwave radiation. Muffle furnaces. An electrically heated furnace of muffle as shown in figure 16 should be available in every well-equipped laboratory. The maximum temperature which can be attained is about 1200 degrees centigrade. If possible, a thermocouple and indicating pyrometer should be provided. Otherwise, the ammeter in the circuit should be calibrated and a chart constructed showing ammeter and corresponding temperature readings. Air baths. For drying solids and precipitates at temperature up to 250 degrees centigrade in which acid or other corrosive vapors are evolved, an electric oven should not be used. An air bath may be constructed from a cylindrical metal vessel with the bottom of the vessel pierced with a numerous holes. Desiccators and dry box. Out of these, desiccator is very important. Desiccator is usually necessary to ensure that substances which have been dried by heating are not unduly exposed to the atmosphere, otherwise, they will absorb moisture more or less rapidly. In many cases, storage in the dry atmosphere of a desiccator will sufficient to prevent appreciable absorption of water vapor. Some substances, however, are so sensitive to atmospheric moisture that all handling must be carried out in a dry box. A desiccator is shown in figure 19 is a covered glass container designed for the storage of objects in a dry atmosphere. It is charged with some drying agent such as anhydrous calcium chloride, silica gel, etc. Silica gel, alumina and calcium sulfate can be obtained which have been impregnated with a cobalt salt so that they are self-indicating. The color changes from blue to pink when the desiccant is exhausted. The spent material can be regenerated by heating in an electric oven. Other apparatus which are required is stirring apparatus, which involves different types of apparatuses as shown in figure 20. Magnetic stirrer, it may be a mechanical stirrer, it may be a stirring rods, then boiling rods which are generally used. Then after that filtration apparatus is required and the simplest apparatus used for the filtration is the filter funnel fitted with a filter paper. The filter paper are made in varying grades of porosity and one appropriate to the type of material to be filtered must be chosen. Another type of apparatus required is weighing bottles, different type weighing bottles, reagents and standard bottles which are used to keep the reagents and some basic techniques which are used for the preparation of the substance for analysis involve how to dissolve the sample, how to measure the sample, and how to weigh the sample. Most organic substances for preparing the solution can be dissolved readily in a suitable organic solvent and some are directly soluble in water or can be dissolved in aqueous solution of acid or of alkalis. Many inorganic substances can be dissolved directly in water or in dilute acids. Concentrated hydrochloric acid will dissolve many metals as well as many metallic oxides. A mixture of hydrochloric acid and nitric acid in the ratio of 3 is to 1 by volume, known as aqua regia, is a very potent solvent, largely due to its oxidizing character, and this addition of oxidants such as bromine or hydrogen peroxide frequently increases the solvent actions of acids. Precipitation. Precipitations are usually carried out in resistant glass beakers, and the solution of the precipitant is added slowly and with efficient stirring of the suitably diluted solution. The addition must always be made without splashing. This is best achieved by allowing the solution of the reagent to flow down the side of the beaker or precipitating vessel. Filtration. The media employed for filtration are filter paper or the porous fritted plates of resistant glass. The choice of filtering medium will be controlled by the nature of the precipitate and also by the question of course. Washing precipitates. Most precipitates are produced in the presence of one or more soluble compound. Since the latter are frequently not volatile at the temperature at which the precipitate is ultimately dried, it is necessary to wash the precipitate to remove such materials as completely as possible. The minimum volume of the washing liquid required to remove the objectionable matter should be used since no precipitate is absolutely insoluble. Qualitative tests for removal of impurities should be made on a small volume of the filtered washing solution. Drying and igniting precipitate. After a precipitate has been filtered and washed, it must be brought to a constant composition before it can be weighed. The further treatment will depend both upon the nature of the precipitate and upon that of the filtering medium. This treatment consists of drying or igniting the precipitate. Precipitates that are to be dried should be collected on filter paper or in sintered glass or porcelain filtering crucibles. Students, in this lecture, I have explained you, I have taken, I have explained you different types of techniques which you use in the laboratory, starting from weighing, how to weigh a substance, how to dissolve it, how to prepare a good quality solution, how filtration is done, how precipitation is done, then how precipitate is filtered in a crucible or in a paper, or how it is a washed. Washing of precipitate is very important. Washing is done in such a way that very very little or no amount of the precipitate goes to the washings. So it should be almost insoluble in the washing solution which we are taking. So these all operations we do in different types of glass apparatus or plastic ware, and by take weighing is made by in classical analytical balance or in electrical balance. Today, single pan electronic balances are available, and in that we can weigh up to uh, 5, 5 pints to the decimal. But we should first learn, which is very important, how to handle your classical analytical balance, double pan balance, how to set them, how to use your rider. These all are essential things. After learning the working and setting of the balance, analytical balance, you move to how to wash your glassware. For washing, different types of solvents are available now in market, but the classical solvent is chromic acid, which is prepared in the lab itself, as I explained, and then it should be washed because it is a very good oxidizing agent and removes almost all types of impurities. After washing with chromic acid, it is washed with water and dried in oven. And when your glass apparatus is clean, very very clean, you should have expertise in that to maintain the to get the clean and dry glass apparatus. After that, you will start the procedure. You will prepare the standard solution. If you are doing volumetric exercise, you will take the standard or intermediate solution in the burette. Then in a conical flask, you will do titrations. You will see that there is no leakage in the burette. You will see how to use a pipette. How to use a pipette is very important thing. Then by taking a fixed amount of the substance with the help of a pipette, you will do titrations with burette. After that, you will find out the endpoint. How to read endpoint is very important. In gravimetric analysis, if you are doing, then again the precipitation is very important. How to achieve a complete precipitation, how to avoid co-precipitation and post-precipitation, how to filter it, how after filtering it, how to take out precipitate from the filter paper in the crucible, or how if you are taking gouge crucible, how to take it, how to put the substance on filter paper or in gouge crucible in desiccator. What are the advantages of desiccator? What is put in the what substance is put in the desiccator which takes out all its moisture? These learning things are very important before entering in the any analytical laboratory. So today you have learned your the first experiment, how to handle your glass apparatus, and what are common analytical